Welcome back to the Daily Thunder podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Woods. I'm here with my two guys, Spenser Davis and Brandon Rhubarb. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How you doing, fellas?
Doing great. Ready to talk about the season that was and look ahead.
It is Monday evening, April 17th. I promised the guys we'd be done by the time the Warriors-Kings game starts. So we will see. No problem. I
take the over.
Well, yeah, we got off to a late start on me. So we're gonna see how close we got it. All right. What a season. It ended on Friday night against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Pretty interesting, Brandon. A season begins and ends in the same arena. Like, that very rarely happens.
Yeah, that's right. Pretty rare, and bummed that it ended the way that it did, because the season was so spectacular for the Thunder. I mean, like, this was a dream season for them to make the play-in, to win a play-in game, and to be that close to the playoffs. And I think that every Thunder fan is very happy with the results of this season. Like, we'll cover all the reasons why we should be happy about this season. But it's just a bummer that they lost in blowout fashion. Like, if they would have lost, 10 points, 8 points, that's one thing. It's just a bummer that it wasn't even a close game. But I think that it did kind of, put a highlight on, okay, the Thunder still have some things to do, and, they need some size. I mean, when you're going up against teams like the Wolves. So that part was kind of a bummer, but just a fantastic season overall, despite the last game.
Spenser, we've had seasons where, like, you could use the metaphor of a 25-point loss to sum up certain years. And this wasn't one of those years.
No, I mean, I had a great time this year. This was, I don't know, maybe the most fun since the MVP year, since Russ's MVP year.
That's a good question. Was this more fun than the Chris Paul year? I would say leading up to like the league being suspended, it was getting pretty out over our skis a bit.
I'm going to be honest. I was, halfway through that year, I feel like I remember still thinking I wanted them to trade Gallo and tank at the end of the year. So, and I think some of us still expected that to happen. I mean, they almost traded Gallo. Woj tweeted about it. I had a lot of fun this year, just knowing what the plan is and seeing the plan come to fruition in ways that we hadn't yet. With the biggest thing being Shea takes one of the ultimate leaps to go from a fringe all-star to a potential first-team All-NBA guy. Josh Giddey had, I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit later in the episode as well, but had almost as perfect of a second season as you could have reasonably hoped for. And then you hit on a pick like Jalen Williams. You find a rotation guy like Isaiah Joe. Some other guys on the fringes also stood out and had good seasons, like Andrew Wiggins, Kendrick Williams. Other than the Chet injury, like, you almost couldn't have drawn it up any better for this season.
Brandon, when did we come up with Andrew Wiggins?
Oh, God. Aaron Wiggins. I'm focused on the Warriors game tonight.
Yeah.
Andrew Wiggins did not say basketball. That was Aaron.
I'm glad you of all people, Spenser, shouted out Aaron Wiggins. Well, you tried to, but I'm happy about that. I'm happy about that.
Half credit.
All right, so what we're gonna do is get into some shout outs. So we're gonna look back on the year and some of our favorite moments, some highlights, some things that should be put into the record before we pour dirt on this season. Like, we will remember blank. Just shout outs, anything Thunder related. I told the boys there are no rules here. Very, little parameters. We're not putting the bumpers up at the bowling alley. Like, this can go anywhere. So by all means, take it away, Spenser, with your first shout out.
First shout out. I've got a couple prepared, and then I'm sure, as we talk through, I'll remember some couple other ones. But I would like to nominate for best game of the year, or best win of the year, excuse me, the win over the Lakers when LeBron James broke the scoring record.
I just rewatched that game. I just rewatched that game 2 nights ago.
I think that is the win, other than maybe with the possible exception of the Pelicans win and the play-in, which is almost its own thing because it's a postseason game. But whenever I think back about this regular season, probably the only singular win I will remember is that Lakers win.
I'm going to agree with the Lakers game. First of all, because I thought it was awesome that the Thunder got to be on this, national TV game, broke history. Every single eye was on this game. Obviously, they're watching LeBron. But as we saw in the play-in, apparently that was the only game that everybody saw of the Thunder all year. and they impressed everybody. It's so funny once they got to the play-in, everybody's like, yeah, this Thunder team, they really impressed me in that Lakers win when LeBron broke the record. I'm like, dude, that's because the only game you watched. That's fine. I'm glad they made that impression. It was cool to see with all the hype and buzz about LeBron, hostile environment. Lakers fans were pumped up, and they had that whole long, well-deserved break to honor the achievement. And the Thunder just got down to business. They did not let it distract them. They won that game, and they earned it. And they were really impressive, and obviously made a big mark on a lot of people because of that game. I think that was kind of the coming out party on a national level, where everybody else saw what OKC fans saw all year. I'll nominate, though. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I was going to say, just real quick on this Laker game, and then I do want to hear what you have to nominate to go up against it. And Ryan, you mentioned you've watched it more recently, but the defense from Jalen Williams in crunch time is something that I just remember off the top of my head, of just like how good he was given the intensity of those moments. Like, he was, if I remember correctly, he was kind of the difference.
Yeah, he had a couple really nice steals. One that led to like a breakaway dunk that was like in crunch time, big moment. You're remembering that correctly. He was very, very good.
Just a really cool moment for a rookie on that kind of a stage. One of other than like a chase for a 1 seed, just about as high a stakes as you can have for a regular season.
Yeah. It was like Brandon was saying, like, it felt like everyone was watching that game. I was like hearing from people that I hadn't heard from in a while, like, hey, your team looks cool. Still around. That one was good. Brandon, I think we should throw out some, I would probably agree that was the that was the win of the year for a lot of the reasons we're saying. There were some other really good ones that we should get into. Brandon, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, for sure. The 150 points they scored against the Celtics.
Yeah.
And that was without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They beat the Celtics, who, I think everybody says, believes is a contender, by 33 points, put up 150 without Shai. I just think that was a coming out party for the rest of the guys, because, for a long time we've all thought without Shai, this team can't do much. And yeah, he's the engine that makes it go, and he makes everybody better. And 150 points is not sustainable whatsoever without Shai, without Michael Jordan, without LeBron, whatever. But it did prove that, this team has some talent outside of Shai as well. I think that the Warriors game that they won after the All-Star break was really impressive, and ended up being a big win. Mm-hmm. As far as being able to make the play-in, because, that was kind of surrounded. They won that in early March, and that was with a fully healthy Warriors squad. I don't think
17 assists. 17 assists for Giddey that night.
That's right. And the Warriors, had obviously had the Thunder's number for a long time. The Thunder later on ended up struggling, in some games later down the road with like the Hornets and Pacers and things like that. So that Warriors game, I think, was pretty big coming out of the break. So that was impressive. There was a 76ers win, fully healthy 76ers team. The Thunder beat them. I thought that was impressive. And last one. Oh, you had that one too?
Mm-hmm.
The last one that I'd say that I want to throw out as an honorable mention, what was it? I'll let you take over because I totally lost my train of thought.
I had the Philly one as well. The two that I wanted to highlight were the Isaiah Joe game against Dallas.
Yep.
Was a big one. And then
which proved to be very big by the end of the year.
Yeah, no doubt. And then the Shea's game winner here in DC was like, I remember that like as like a really, really big one for Shea. He had hit that three against the Bucks, similar fashion, similar spot on the floor that they ended up losing in double overtime to the Bucks that night. And then very, very soon after, like a week later, Shea gets Washington on the road to win by 1. I thought that was a really good win for them. They followed that one with 3 straight losses, but it was a big win, I promise.
It was.
It was. All right. Any other games we want to mention? Wins or
I've got one more as far as wins goes. I'm looking at the box score, and it's not what I remember it as. It was this 9-point win over the Blazers in Portland. Let's see, what was the date? On February 10th. And from my memory, the Thunder blew out the Blazers that night. They apparently only won by 9, but Shea had 44 on 16 shots.
Yeah.
Only took 1 3. Also had 7 assists. Giddey had 19 and 7, plus 6 rebounds. That was kind of a, it was a road test on the road, against Portland, who they were not tanking yet. That was a legitimate team. And it was actually the game right after the win when they beat the Lakers on LeBron night. So It was the very next game. A couple games later, they went into Portland and won pretty handily. So that's another one that I will remember. Ryan, is there any? If you had to pick a game where the biggest lesson was learned, what would you say that was?
What a great question. Did we learn some lessons this year or what? This is a troll for anyone listening. This is Spenser trolling me, but I would have to say the Indiana game, right? We learned so much.
Oh, I thought it was the Charlotte game. Was it the Indiana game?
Well,
who could pick?
Who could say? So I did want to ask that question, a similar question, but was there a loss that you vividly remember, like just that made you the most frustrated?
Yes, and it wasn't either of those. It was the Rockets loss. Actually, I think they lost to the Rockets twice this year.
They did.
It was the Rockets lost in February 1st. They lost by 6 in Houston. 3 days later, they played the Rockets again in Oklahoma City at a game that I was at. And the Thunder scored 153 points, and the game was over with like 10 minutes left in the second quarter. I mean, it was just 3 days later, they came back and thrashed them.
133-96.
I'm looking at this.
Sorry.
That's a different
that was a week. That was a week later.
Yeah, 153 to 121 is the game that I'm thinking of. That's the game where like Josh kind of mocked Jalen Green at one point. It was fun. But yeah, don't lose to the Rockets twice next year, please. That would be great.
112.
That was kind of annoying.
112-106 in Houston, and that was a game where we were thinking like, wow, if they could get both of these Rockets games, they're getting close to 500. Like it was another one that just kind of sent them back down. Really, really. At that point, if they got them both, they would have climbed to 26 and 26. and they were 24-26 going into the first one, and we were thinking like we're finally going to get to 500 before we go out west. And they go immediately to 24-27. That was a frustrating one, Spencer. That's a very good pull for me.
Yeah. The other one is the first game after the All-Star break against the Jazz that they lose in overtime. Lauri Markkanen goes off. Shea had 39 points in that game. They still lose.
That was a really frustrating one. I remember watching that one in Phoenix because we thought we were going to that game the next night. That's a good one.
I actually think it speaks to how far this team came from like that post All-Star break. I don't want to say era because but like that part of the season. Because I remember after that Jazz game thinking like, okay, maybe they're going to start to tank. And of course, that was the first of 5 straight losses coming out of the All-Star break. And I for sure thought they were going to tank at the end of those 5 straight losses. And they did not.
Because Shea got hurt in that Jazz game.
Yeah, Shea got hurt, and then he had COVID, and I think Kenrich got hurt in there. They lose 5 straight. They're I don't know what their record was, but they're 6 or 7 games below 500 at that point. I think Bill Simmons is tweeting about Shea sitting out for the tank. Like it was ugly. And then they won 6 of the next 7. So worked out.
Yeah, and that's why I go back to that Warriors game because that's when I felt like okay, because they'd lost, like you said, all those games in a row, and it did seem like it was going down that way. And then they beat the Jazz twice at home, kind of in blowout fashion. But it was the Jazz, and they weren't playing all their guys. So that Warriors game was when I was like, okay, this team is fighting for the play, and they might get the play in. As far as losses go, I'm going to say this: they kind of threaded the needle perfectly here. Even going back to those frustrating Hornets and Pacers games, had they won both of those games, they still would have ended up tied with the Pelicans in the 9-10 spot. So that wouldn't have changed much. Now, they might have gone and tried to beat the Grizzlies, and who knows how that would have changed things and how it would have changed things for the Mavs and all those things. But they kind of threaded the needle perfectly to where they still got a lottery pick, the best shot they could get, but still made the play in. Like they're below the Raptors and the Pelicans, and had they won more, they might be picking at number 14 instead of 12.
I'd say that sounds like a pretty good lesson to learn.
That's going to be my positive spin on it. That had they won those 2 games, it wouldn't have changed anything except maybe they'd be picking 14 instead of 12.
I think my frustration levels hit like 2019 levels almost in just that entire week from Sunday the 26th, March 26th, playing at Portland. They pull that game out somehow, lose to Charlotte, beat Detroit on a tip-in at home, and then lose to Indiana. Those 4 games, I never want to remember that week. That was really, really frustrating. That was a real low point.
Can we just say that they were gassed? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to make excuses for them, but it was so out of character from what they were for the first 70 games of the year that I'm almost willing to just, throw it out. And like Brandon said, it worked out. So I think it's fine.
And they played something like 17 games and 24 nights or something crazy. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't that, but it was something like that. They did play a lot of games in their defense.
I think it was It was 17 games in the month of March.
Yeah, it was a lot of games.
That's a ton of games, and we talked about it at the time. But like that, you're also hitting like 17 games in a month where like these guys are not used to playing basketball at this point.
No.
They are well past like what, double what they've been accustomed to playing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Shea had not gotten to this point in the calendar the last couple of years. Neither had Dort. Jalen has obviously never played this much. Giddey, was shut down after the All-Star break last year. So I mean, people talk about the getting playoff experience for these guys, but honestly, just like playing it out to game 82, I think for this year was a great step.
I think Giddy finished with like somewhere in the mid 50s games played last year, and finished this year. I think he only missed like 5 or 6 games. I think he finished with 76 games played, which is
that's good.
That's a big step for him. Like really, really good. And he was great in the in the second to last game of the year. He had maybe his best game of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's go to just continue down the line of shout outs. I'll go. I'd like to shout out, of course, the haters and losers, the 23.5 preseason win total.
Nice.
By the Sharks, by
Vegas.
By the boys that know. 23.5, worst in the league, projected to be, and they finished the year with, if you count the Pelicans game, 41 wins?
Yeah, 41 wins. And I'll take it a step further. Let's add John Hollinger of The Athletic. I believe he had the Thunder projected at
by all means.
I think Hollinger had the Thunder projected at 19 wins, if I remember right. I just I don't know how you get to that point. Like, that's worse than they were last year.
A blanket fatwa on John Hollinger on this here podcast. Please, Mr. Hollinger, come talk to us just once. Boy, would that be fun. Spenser, I think we took the over, but not by much.
We did.
I'm sure we had to have, right? Because 23.5, like, I remember listening to a podcast, I think it was Nate Duncan, and he was like pretty confident in the Thunder going under. And I remember thinking like, oh no, like and his point was that the Thunder have overperformed their win expectancy the last couple of years, which was true. And they did come back down to earth this year. And in terms of I can't think of the right word, but the Thunder have been lucky over the last couple of years in terms of how many they won versus how many they were expected to win, and that reverted this year. They actually won less than they were supposed to, but they still soared over that total. So yeah, I think we had the over.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm really confused by what you just said.
Yeah, me too. I talked myself into a bit of a corner there, huh?
Did you get it, Ryan?
Kind of, but it did remind me of like when Michael Scott says, like, sometimes I start sentences and I don't know where they're going to go. I find
I was just going to let it go, but I was like, there's going to be so many people listening that are thinking the same thing that I'm thinking. So I just figured I'd bring it up. I had no idea.
I'll try to clean this up here a little bit. The Thunder won 40 games this year. They were expected to win 44, right? So they're 4 games under expectation. Last year, they won 24. They were only expected to win 21, so they're 3 games over. And then the year before that, they were expected to they won 22, and they were only expected to win 15. So they were 7 over that season. So they, in that sense, the last couple of years, they've overperformed. What Nate Duncan's point was that they were going to underperform this year, which they did, but it didn't matter. They still soared way over the total.
And what you're saying is, like, based on the results of the season, not preseason, like expectations,
right? Yeah, no,
or anything like that. Like based on how they performed,
based on point differential.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They finished with a plus 1.1 point differential, which would be better than the Clippers, the Lakers, the Timberwolves, and the Mavericks. I think that's good for 6th in the West. Kind of wild. And we kind of looked at that all year long. Like, even being a team under 500, their point differential was like always positive. Not by much, but like it would dip up. It would jump up to like 1.8, 1.9. It'd dip back down, but like it was a they rarely went on like they really ripped off like multiple wins in a row. This was an up and down year as far as win a couple, lose a couple, which is that's what young teams do. And honestly, what young teams do is just lose a bunch. And this team just showed a lot of maturity and just so well coached. Like, I can't get over like how connected the group feels. And I think, for as cheesy as it sounds, like the connection and how much the group tends to enjoy one another helped them a lot this year, in some moments where maybe the fatigue sets in.
Yeah, I agree. It was great to see that, and kind of expected based on how the last couple of years went with, especially when Shea was playing. Like, the win percentage was not great, but it was better than when he was out. And so I don't think it was too surprising to see them come in this year and be a cohesive unit. They once again had a defense that was basically, top half of the league or so, despite not having a center for the second year in a row.
Yeah,
which is pretty incredible. Shout out to Kenrich Williams for kind of deputizing as a center for a few games before he got hurt. That was an interesting revelation.
He made small ball like really feasible for this team.
Yeah.
He allowed them to do a lot of different things. He allowed a lot of different guys to get on the floor, where without someone like Kenrich, it may have been tougher to get minutes for certain guys. He kind of made everyone available by being able to guard well above his height. I remember the game in Washington where they put him on Porzingis, and we talked about this not that long ago, but he did so well. And I mean, he seemed like he was giving up a full foot. He was really good. And Brandon, he was missed. Like, when it came time to, like, these guys are trying to push for the play-in and even into these play-in games. Like, even, we've been talking about like what this would look like with Chet, but like even just keeping Kenrich healthy throughout the rest of the season, things would have looked a bit different.
Oh, absolutely. The defense really struggled without Kenrich, and it's really a testament to the guys who played that they were able to make the play-in with, obviously without Chet Holmgren, but then without Kenrich Williams, because they're playing like 6'9" dudes at center, and Kenrich is a top 5 player currently on this team. Obviously everybody knows he's a glue guy and defense and hustle and all those things, but he's a really complimentary player on offense too. Always makes the right play. He's just a good winning player, and plus minus isn't everything and it's flawed, but it does show up his plus minus. He always seems to be a positive, and you see it passes the eye test as well. So yeah, losing Kenrich was a big deal, and I don't think he makes a difference in that Timberwolves game, but maybe the Thunder win a few more games down the stretch, and maybe they're a different seed or things shake out differently. Ultimately, I think it all worked out well this season. You can't complain, but you do got to wonder, how much better this team, when they were struggling down the stretch, how much they would have been better with Kenny Hustle.
It's been so long that sometimes I have to remind myself, when like thinking about next year, that like he's involved. He's back in the mix of guys. When you're listing them out, he's a part of it. And there have been times where it completely slips my mind that he's a part of the group. It's been a while. Brandon,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's certain rotation guys that you can, that you can lock in and say, like, yeah, SGA, Jada, Giddey, Chet, Dort. Kenrich is one of those guys. Maybe Isaiah Joe. Everybody else is going to be fighting for time, rotation spots, and things like that. But Kenrich is absolutely, positively in the rotation going forward.
Brandon, go ahead with another shout out from you.
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to Poku pre-injury, just to go back.
Whoa,
good one.
Yeah, because he came back and he didn't play all that great when he came back, obviously, and he got out of the rotation. But before he got hurt, he had really turned a corner. He was shooting like over 37% from three. He was like a top 10 shot blocker for a good part of the season before he was hurt. He was making the right reads on offense. Just overall, his overall feel and play were so much better. And I hope that, we see him go back to that, because obviously it wasn't the same when he came back from injury. But I think he deserves, at the very least, his first couple seasons, he was, kind of a punchline. And then to end the season, he was out. But before he got hurt this year, he looked like a legitimate rotation player.
That's a good shout out.
Thank you.
It really is. That's a good reminder. I'll say that. Spencer, are you still to where you can get excited about Poku, or are you out?
No, I wish I could. I kind of bit my tongue because, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, that kind of rule. No, I'm kind of kidding. He did look legitimately adequate before he got hurt. I agree. I don't think the numbers say that. The numbers on Poku are not great. And in fact, I believe when the Thunder kind of made their run kind of towards the middle of the year, it was after he went out. Does that say anything? Is it a coincidence? Probably. I don't know. But that is when we got more, Kenrich at the 5 lineups, and that really started to work. And that kind of, sparked what the Thunder became over the second half of the season for the most part. I don't want to say I've completely given up on Poku, but I don't really have any more. I don't think I have hopes. If that makes sense. Like I don't want to completely shut the door, but like my expectations are zero as far as him being on this team, like a productive player on this team in a couple years. Could he find it somewhere else? Probably. Like, he's a good player. He's got an interesting skill set. He's 7 feet tall. I will say the most encouraging thing from him this year was that he got way better at shooting the three. And that is going to get him, that alone, and with his length, is going to earn him a chance on another team at some point. Or maybe he puts it all together and he's the guy, he's the backup center in Oklahoma City. Could go either way. But I think my expectations going into the offseason for Poku are zero.
Well, and to be clear, I'm not saying like he's in the rotation going forward or anything. I just want to shout out, because I do think he legitimately was playing pretty well before he got hurt. Compared to expectations, and compared to, what everybody thought of him beforehand and probably since. What
would you say? He was fun, at least, and the shooting was legitimately exciting. I'm not talking about next year, but 2 years from now, what percentage chance do you guys think he's on the roster?
Oh, I mean, he is still young. He's still only 21. He is very young. He
is going into a contract year,
right?
I believe
he does still fit all the things that the Thunder want. They're not going to outright cut him, because he's worth too much to just cut.
No, he's going to be on the team next year unless they just trade him. But
right.
I'm talking about 2 years from now. They'd have to extend him.
Right. A lot's going to change for the Thunder over the next 2 years. I'll say that. A lot's going to change. This roster and rotations and things like that, a lot's going to change. I don't know where that's going to leave Poku. We talked about the rotation pieces. I think that the Thunder, barring trades, already has 7 in SGA, J-Dub, Giddey, Chet, Dort, Kenrich, and probably Isaiah Joe. I mean, if you're looking for rotate, you only got 2 or 3 other guys. You got Ousmane Dieng. You got whoever they're going to get in this draft. You got the 2024 draft where the Thunder had like 4 first-round picks. You got the possibility of free agency and $30 million in cap space. You got the possibility of trading for a guy. Rotation spots are going to run out, over the next couple of years.
I would say less than 15% if we're talking 2 years from now.
Yeah, I think I was going to say 10, but if 10 to 15.
If he's on the roster in 2 years, I think it's because he's like taking a big leap, and that would be great. He's theoretically he fills a need, like he fills a spot that I think a lot of Thunder fans would say needs addressing. So, and we'll probably talk about that more later, but he would like the idealized version of Poku, I think fills a need, and there's space for him. There are minutes for him.
It is hard though, right? Because you've got, I mean, who knows who they're going to draft this year, but isn't he competing with Jang for minutes at this point?
Right.
Yeah, I think he is.
Or Jay will.
If Jang comes on, like, I think it's curtains. Like, I think it becomes almost like no chance. But I'm picturing I'm picturing at least next year, if they continue to bring Jang along slowly, Poku could still get minutes early in the year.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe this is, I don't know if you want to talk about Jang at some point. I don't have a shout out for Jang. But I think ideally he's not playing in the G League at all next year. We'll see, but I think that should be a reasonable goal, that he does not, need to have the G League in year 2.
Spencer, what do you think like a successful offseason for Jang looks like? Like, what does he need to do?
Well, he needs to get, I don't know how you do this without playing in games. But he just needs to be a little bit more confident in his movements, especially towards the basket, right? Like, he's a very interesting finesse player and can kind of get to his step back sometimes, but he needs to learn how to use his frame and be confident in doing so. When we saw him post that wrist injury, that was the biggest thing I saw, that it didn't really seem like, he was super confident in that. And I don't know if that was because of the injury or if it's just because he's super young. What is he, 19 years old at this point? So he's got some time. I do, he's further along than Poku was, obviously, when Poku came into the league. But I do think Jang needs to show some improvement this year. He doesn't have to make a huge leap, but it's a big offseason for him. Like, there are minutes that, if he's going to stake a claim to a rotation spot on the future of this team, like, he needs to at least, really show that he's capable of filling that role this offseason. Or at some point they're going to, trade or draft somebody over him. And that might happen this year anyway. They may go draft Jarris Walker or Taylor Hendricks this offseason, and, then Jang is looking at a bench role for a while. Or, maybe he's a small forward, but it's just going to be tough. The other thing he needs to do, whenever I watched him offensively, like, it just seems like he's floating around a lot and doesn't always know, where to move. I don't know that he's totally has the scheme yet. But that's fine. Like, that's something that can be fixed with more playing time too.
Brandon, I'm with Spencer. Like, it's a lot to do with his physicality, and we watched a very physical team in Minnesota kind of bully a young team on Friday. Like, the physicality that Jang has the potential to bring is so high. Like, he's a big dude, and in the same way that we were hoping that we'd see more of that from Josh, and we did. Josh honestly has some of the most physical play we saw this year from a Thunder player. Some of that from Jang would be really helpful.
Yeah, it would. He's got all the tools. Obviously, he's 6'10", 6'11". His wingspan is crazy. He's so fluid. It's really easy to see why the Thunder thought so highly of him, why the Pelicans considered him. I believe they picked at number 8. The Cavs wanted to trade up for him. There was a bidding war. Like, you just don't see very often dudes this size that can handle the ball and move like he does. And I believe in the shot, like mechanically and the form and all those things. I mean, it's a nice looking shot. I think that comes around. It's shown some flashes, some potential. It really does, I think, have to do with confidence and physicality. I mean, that's what all it comes down to. But he's so young. He's like the 5th youngest player in the league, something like that. 3rd youngest. I can't remember. He's 19 still. Like the season is over and he's still 19 years old. That's nuts. So yeah, if he can get that confidence and get that physicality, he's got so long ahead of him. The Thunder knew he was kind of a raw project and would take some time. They're going to be patient with him. So whether it comes next year or the year after that, Jang's going to get heavy minutes, I believe, next season. He's going to be in the rotation, I believe. So yeah, I think the Thunder is still high on Jang for all the reasons they were before. I don't think anything that happened this season probably changed their mind on Jang.
I agree. I think the runway is very, very, very long for Jang, and that's not just because they gave up. Theoretically, they gave up 3 firsts for him alone. I think there's a lot of J-Dub involved, like making sure you get both of them in that cost. But like, he fits so well, and like theoretically, and he is so young. I think he's going to be the player that fans have to be the most patient with, because I think the Thunder are going to be very, very patient with him. And that's 100%. Not to say,
and they should be.
That's not to say that he won't have like bars to clear. They won't have him on like, he will be accountable to the organization for sure. Like he will have benchmarks, but I think the runway for him will be a lot longer than people think.
Yeah.
Are you saying he's going to have to eat some broccoli?
Possibly.
Wasn't that the line that Dagnall had about Trey Mann?
Yeah.
I guess that is maybe carrots or something. Try a different vegetable. The broccoli didn't seem to work out too well.
All right, Spencer, do you have another shout out you want to give?
I would love to give a shout out to Josh Giddey.
Sure.
If we want to talk about Josh, we've already talked about him a little bit. And we talk about him I feel like the last few podcasts we've done, we've talked about him. But I think he had such an impressive season. And I wrote down some numbers here. He went into the last offseason. What were his goals, right? They were you needed to be more physical going to the rim and to use his frame to score, which is some of the same things we're talking about with Jang. And Giddey, took that to heart and was awesome at it. He also needed to improve his handle and his 3-point shot. He did both of those things this year as well. His 3-point shot went from 26% to 33%.
Huge.
Overall, his shot diet was a lot more efficient. Only 11% of his attempts this season came from between 10 feet and the 3-point line. Last year, that number was north of 15%. So he got more efficient there. True shooting percentage went up from 48% to 53%, which I will note is still quite a bit below league average, but still a nice increase in efficiency to see. His volume of attempts from 0 to 3 feet and 3 to 10 feet went up significantly. And then on the turnover front, his turnover rate went down from 20% to 15%, despite his usage rate going up. So to me, he checked off every single thing that anybody could have asked of him to do last offseason going into this year. He got better at pretty much everything he needed to. I think it was a slow start. It was one of the reasons why his season has gone under the radar. But especially over the second half of the year, and then in that New Orleans game, he had kind of that signature coming out party on a national level. Just a really impressive year from Josh, who's still only 20 years old.
That's a robust shout out for Josh Giddey. Brandon, I think one of the big questions going into the year was a year ago, we were still, hoping that we'd see emphatic answers to can Shea and Josh, like not just be on the floor together, but can they thrive? Can they lift each other up at the same time? And I think we got like about as emphatic of an answer as we could have hoped for. Yeah,
I don't think there should be any concern whatsoever about whether or not SGA and Josh can coexist. The Thunder want as many ball handlers and playmakers as possible. Like that's what they're going for. They added another one, J-Dub, and Chet's gonna eat into the shot diet next season. But look, Shea was the number 4 leading scorer in the NBA this season, and Josh improved overall, like across the board.
Yeah.
So I don't think that, and this was their first full year playing together, because we talked about how Shea missed a lot of time last year, Josh missed a lot of time last year, and it was even more so when you look at the games they actually got to play together. So first full year playing together, both of them highly successful this year. J-Dub highly successful. The future looks really, really good for this. If you want to call it a backcourt trio instead of a duo, because I still think of J-Dub as a guard, maybe a small forward. I think ideally he lands as a small forward. But yeah, the guards are in good hands in OKC. The future is bright as far as the backcourt goes.
Brandon, you want to go with another shout out?
Yeah, I'll do another one. I want to give a shout out to just like the Thunder overall social media this season. I'm not talking about like the official account. I'm talking about the players, like from SGA's Instagram captions to J-Dub's translations to all of them, just like, you know, on social media associating with each other, and like the inside jokes and things like it's, you know, this is a young team, and they're a fun team and they like each other. The chemistry is high, just like the overall vibes. I guess this is just for the vibes. And, you know, I specified social media, but just the vibes overall. You know, and I think that one picture that kind of like summed it all up was when they all posed together with Eugene Omaruri after the Pistons game, where he was with Detroit now, but this team is so close. They all wanted to take a picture with this dude because they're still tight. They're just a fun group to kind of cheer on and watch grow. And you kind of see it because it's 2023. You see it kind of happening not only on the court, but on social media as well.
I want to add to what you just said and just give a shout out to Chet's avatar, which is that picture of Kenrich Williams in sunglasses.
Yes.
And it has been for months. Like, he hasn't changed it, and it's so funny every single time. If you're unaware, go look at Chet's Twitter. It's his, where it used to be a picture of him, is a picture of Kenrich Williams, which is, I don't know if it's still a Kenrich Williams picture, but on his Twitter, but it is Chet's, and it has been for a while. So
yes,
that is a really, really, really good one.
And J-Dub is incredibly active, like on Twitter and things like with fans.
Yeah,
like he will talk with, and he's just, it's fun to see that, because you don't typically see that from NBA players. So it's fun to watch and fun to see. J-Dub also shout out to his YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel, if you're unaware of that.
Yeah.
He posts regular videos on there. So it's fun to see all that.
Got to meet his dog.
Yeah.
Very recently. That's a good one. In kind of a similar vein, my next shout out is to Wally Zerbiak. He gave us he gave us one of the best sound bites maybe in the history of the Thunder. Like, that is so reusable.
Yes.
And just watching someone from another team's like studio show not be able to contain how frustrated they were at what Josh Giddey did to their team. That was really funny. And I hope that clip lives forever. It's really, really good.
Now, Ryan, there's going to be a few people who don't know what you're talking about, and just so everybody knows, you got to recreate what he said so everybody knows what you're talking about.
Listen, that sound bite is legendary, and it will not be defamed by me. I promise you.
Ryan, just have our editor just plug it in right here.
That's a good idea. That's illegal, but it's also a good idea. All right, Spencer, you're up next. Give us another one.
Man, I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of fresh out of shout outs. I didn't have any creative ideas like the Giddey meme. That's great. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'd completely forgotten about it. Brandon, do you have anything else?
I'll go with another one. Mark Daignault's just fury unleashed this year on
Yes.
the officiating.
Yes.
It's something that I have always hoped for in a Thunder coach, and he of all so many boxes he checks, and this is one that isn't necessary, but he still checks it, and it's so awesome. It's just the perfect amount of like self-aware, sometimes self-deprecating. I'm gonna let this fly, and I know we're gonna get a tech, and that's fine. It's built into the models. We are here to get our point across, and I'm gonna show these young guys that, like, I'm asking them to do a lot, and they're gonna know that I'm in this fight with them, and I think a lot of what it's kind of two-part. Like he was very, very vocal with officials during the game, but then he would get asked about it post game or the next day in like a practice scrum or shoot around scrum, and he would just be so articulate in why he's going after certain officials in certain instances. And not that it led to like, a perfect whistle, but just putting certain crews and like the league office on notice that like we're in the lane more than anyone. Like we shouldn't be shooting less free throws than the other team. And I really appreciated Mark like I'm sure there were a lot of things that he was emphasizing to guys about here's what we need you to do. Here are the things that we're drilling for you. And when they're doing them on the floor and they're not being rewarded for it, and it has something to do with the officiating, I appreciate Mark going out of his way to like be demonstrative and to stick up for players, especially young guys that are new to this. It, I'm sure, goes a long way with them. I think we heard it at like exit interviews, like every player said something about how much they love playing for Mark. And I think those moments have some part in why they feel that way, because he's very much in their corner, and he shows it in sometimes very hilarious ways. And a lot of it was picked up on hot microphones this year, and I was here for all of it. So a big shout out to Coach Degnaud and the fire that we saw this year.
What was his best outburst? Was it other than the Golden State one recently? Do you have a favorite outburst?
I can't remember what game it was, but he was saying like, we want that shit down here, and we don't want to have to flop for it, or like even when we don't sell it, even when we don't sell it, we want it. And I was just like, God, that's it, man. Like that is it. We're not. Like, we're not going to spend time in practice, like learning, like teaching Josh how to flail his hair back more. Like we're going to.
However, they should that should be done this summer.
However, wouldn't mind if they did that. But like he was just so adamant that like we are not in the game of baiting you into selling stuff overtly. So we would like the same call even when we don't. And I was just such a fan. I think it was maybe Shea or Dort had gotten called for a cheap one, like just across half court, that somebody like threw their head back, like kind of wrapped him up. Very, very like very savvy play, I'll say, by whoever the ball handler was. I can't remember if it was Harden or someone else, but it was one of those, and Mark just had it. Like he blew a fuse, and that's probably my favorite, just because he walked right by like Fisher and Cage. Like it was almost like he asked them for the mic, and he said it so loud. It was awesome. So yeah, that's the one that I remember, that will always be very dear to my heart.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I love seeing, Scotty Brooks was such a nice guy. Billy Donovan was fine. There just wasn't Billy Donovan he was fine. He was a nice guy. He was just like there wasn't much like there's a lot of coach speak. There's a lot of coach speak, and there wasn't a lot of fire.
And to be fair, the players that those two coaches coached, the dynamic was very, very different.
It was
the guys that they coached didn't need sticking up for, like they were superstars, and they were officiated for the most part and they also like had a guy in Russ that like routinely was at the top of the league in technicals. So like the dynamic was very different in those days. But yes, they were very nice gentlemen.
They were very nice. Also, I just appreciate Mark's, like, whether it's officiating or anything, like any answer to anything, he gives you like these really good answers that aren't just like, you can't predict what he's going to say, and he'll answer them thoroughly. He's funny. I just like listening to him answer his questions in those post-game pressers. He's pretty thoughtful and insightful.
I'm just going to say I'm thankful that he coached under, I don't think he coached under, but he observed coaching under Jim Calhoun at UConn back in the day. I think that was probably good for him.
I guess I didn't realize that that's the case. That's interesting.
Yeah, wasn't he I don't think I just made that up.
No, you're right. I just hadn't put the connection that it was with Calhoun. You're right.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Calhoun, fiery guy. Not a Billy Donovan type.
Do you remember his press conference where I think it was a student journalist asked about money that was like being brought into the university, and just like absolutely like crushes this poor, what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was something about,
get some facts and come.
Sure he would have been
get some facts and then come back and talk to me. Get some facts and then come back and talk to me.
There's something about him being the highest paid employee in the state of Connecticut.
Yes, that's what it was.
And,
we bring in $4.2 million to this university. Go get some facts and then come talk to me. That's a good one. Maybe that was the inspiration for Dagnall. There was one other one that I wanted to shout out, and I'm blanking on it. But yes, that's a really good one.
I'll go through a few just real quick that we don't have to. Just a few that I jotted down. You mentioned SGA's game winner against the Wizards. He also had that really nice baseline jumper game winner against the Trailblazers.
Yeah.
He also had that game winner, the banked off the glass shot against the Nuggets. I could be forgetting another game winner, but I want to give a shout out to all those games. Then J-Dub's game winner in that what ultimately ended up being an important game against the Pistons, his putback at the last second to win against the Pistons. SGA's jacket at All-Star Weekend was incredible.
That's a great call out. Yeah.
Yeah, got to give a shout out to that. Even though it just happened, so this isn't going way back, but Josh Giddey's game against the Pelicans, I think, was his best game of his career, and it came on the biggest stage of his career. So shout out to that. And then just J-Dub overall, just the season he had, being the number 12 pick, being projected in the second round a year ago, and then slowly moving up the board, and then fast up the boards, flying up the boards after the combine. To be picked 12th, some people still thought it was a reach. He's going to finish number 2 in Rookie of the Year. You could argue that he had a better season than Paolo. What he means to this Thunder team going forward, I mean, to me, he's a game changer. Shea became, all NBA player this year, first team, top 10-ish player in the league, right? That's huge. That's the biggest thing that happened. Josh Giddey taking a leap was huge. Isaiah Joe becoming like a rotation piece out of nowhere, huge.
For free.
But J-Dub becoming a guy who looks like a future star, possible future all-star, being this good, this young. And then obviously shout out Chet Holmgren, what he's going to become. But I think J-Dub kind of changes the trajectory of kind of people's expectations of what this team might be. And people weren't expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, the Thunder needed to get lucky. You can have all these high picks. The Thunder have not had great lottery luck. At least they didn't in 2021. Last year, they had pretty good lottery luck to get the number 2 pick, but he missed the whole year, right? So you could argue about whether that even counts to this point. But having Jalen come in, I mean, the biggest thing to me that it does is it takes the sting out of not having a top 5 pick this year, right? Like if the Thunder weren't able to tank this year in part because of how good Jalen Williams was. I mean, if Jalen Williams, and this is, I don't mean this as a slight to Ousmane Dieng, but he just wasn't as productive. If the Thunder had just drafted 2 Ousmane Diengs this past year, they would not, like, they don't make the play-in. They're probably not even close, right? So the fact that he had such a good year and is so projectable and is basically the perfect player to play with a guy like Shea who can shoot, he can potentially guard the first or second best perimeter defender or perimeter offensive player on the other team. He's got super long arms. He can really finish. He's the best athlete on the team. Like, he's just been everything that you could have wanted out of a top 5 pick in the 2023 NBA draft, if that makes sense. And you kind of get him a year early, and it's just, and you still, now the Thunder, it looks like they're going to have probably the number 12 pick in this draft, and we'll see if they're able to trade up, or maybe they'll take another player at 12, which has been a good spot for
them. All right. Any other quick shout outs that you want to just fire away before we move on?
I think we're good. The Warriors Kings game that we're shooting for is about to tip off, and we're halfway through the show. So
it is. So I'd say we're right on schedule, about 30 minutes behind schedule. So love that for us. Let's go to let's kind of look ahead. We are going to try our best, and this is me just pulling the reins on these guys when it comes to draft talk. We're going to try and save as much of it as we can because we have a long off season, obviously a lot of runway leading up to the lottery and the draft. But we do want to discuss like kind of what we think Oklahoma City needs going forward. What would a successful offseason look like as far as bringing new faces in? So, Spencer, I want to turn it to you, and you steer us where you see fit.
Well, I think when you talk about this draft and having the 12th pick, more than likely, at least to start, the good news is that there are quite a few players in this draft who theoretically fit what the Thunder need. And let's talk about that. Like, I'm curious to see if what I have outlined as, prototypes that the Thunder could draft or potentially, acquire in some other fashion to go with the 6 or 7 guys in stone that they have. The prototypes that I'm thinking about are, kind of a bigger 4 who can rebound, pass, shoot, maybe be a small ball 5 in certain lineups. They already have a couple guys like this on the roster, right? Like Jang could potentially fit that description. Poku, if he, has a great summer and takes off, theoretically could fit that mold. The second prototype that I'd be looking out for is a dynamic transition athlete. This really stood out in the play-in. There were some really bad transition attempts, and even some that were converted, but were just so slow. And that they have to be better in transition. They need somebody else who can run with Jalen, and Shea can run a little bit, but that's not he's a play at his own pace kind of guy. They need somebody who can run in transition. And the third thing that I would be looking out for as a potential target in this draft is a point of attack defender who can cut, finish, and shoot. They kind of already have that in some ways. They have parts of that in Dort, right? Great point of attack defender, maybe one of the best, like, just ISO defenders at the end of a game, maybe in the whole league. Can he cut and finish? Not really, not as well as you would like. Can he shoot from the corners? Yes. From anywhere else, it's sketchy. He did have a couple good playoff games, so shout out to him for that. But those are the three main prototypes of players that I would be looking out for as far as like what they need to add to this rotation moving forward.
I totally agree on the like size that can shoot and rebound. I do think rebounding is something that Chet will address, but probably I don't think you can ask any one player to fully address how bad it got at certain times this year. So that 4 spot, like if they're going to start those three guards in Shea, J-Dub, Giddey, and we know Chet's starting, Dort's starting. So it's some like I kind of go back and forth. Like that 4 spot theoretically is already filled. Like as far as like starter who probably like the unit that is probably going to play the most together and the unit that's going to close a lot of games. I don't know. Like this is just ignorance. Like we aren't able to see into the future, but like I don't know of anyone in this draft that's good enough at those specific things to alter that 5-man unit.
Well, I would say I would push back.
I would too,
because I don't necessarily think that like Dort, especially, and maybe to a certain extent even Giddey are like locks to start. They're going to play a lot, and I think it'll probably be. It's more likely that Dort is the one who comes off the bench. Now this is long term. Next year, I think you're absolutely right. Like I think those are the 5 starters. But I think I think you want to have like the whole point of this build to this point has been to have positional size, right? Like that is a core tenet of what they're doing here. There's no one on the court other than Dort, I guess, that's and Isaiah Joe that's under like 6'6". And I think that when you have Jalen or Josh guarding the power forward, you give up that advantage, right? Like you give up like it's great that you have size everywhere else, but if Jalen is not the 3, if he's a 4, now you're actually giving up a little bit of size in the front court. So that's why I think they're like long term. There's a power forward that's going to start on this team that's not here yet. Could it be Jang? Yes. Like, could it be Taylor Hendricks, who I think Brandon would love to wax poetic about here after I stop talking? And like my answer is yes. Like bring in Taylor Hendricks. I think he would probably be starting by midway through the year. And the same goes for Jarris Walker.
Before we unleash Brandon on that, like you just said Taylor Hendricks you think could be starting halfway through the year, like in place of Dort?
Yeah, I think so.
So what is Dort's value?
Well,
off the bench?
That's where it's tricky. Because you're right. Like ideally, Dort is guarding the other team's best player, so he's playing with the starters a bunch. But I'm also not going into a season where Josh Giddey is extension eligible, or where he will be, the following summer, and having him like come off the bench. When he's better than Dort, right? Like it's not like he's a worse player.
I don't think. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I don't think we'll ever see a day where Giddey comes off the bench.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like I think he's so good. Like he's incredibly good. But Dort's like a pretty good player too. But like role players come off the bench, and that's I don't think it has to be some slight to him.
No,
offensively, some of the decisions he makes. You get a little bit more leniency when you're coming off the bench, I think. And you're not playing so much with, the 3 or 4 other best offensive players on the team. So maybe that could be helpful for him. There are also a lot of scenarios and a lot of matchups where Dort is closing over Josh Giddey. So maybe Giddey starts, but Dort is closing in a lineup with Chet, Shea, Jalen, and a power forward.
What, like, projecting out to next year, let's say it's that 5-man unit: Giddey, Shea, Chet, Dort, J-Dub. Does that unit still struggle to rebound, or do they get to a point where it's not like a glaring thing?
I mean, Chet's a really good rebounder. Like he always, at other levels, I'm going to look up his rebounding rate on KenPom right now as I talk through this. But and the fact that the Thunder are big at the guard positions is going to help. Like there's a world where if the Thunder have a real power forward, they're actually one of the better rebounding teams in the league, right? Because of how big they are, in the backcourt and with Jalen having such a long wingspan. Like there's a world where rebounding is a strength in the not too distant future. But I do think that they need to have, somebody else who fits skills wise. Like you can't sacrifice that just to have somebody who can come in and rebound. It's not that important. But yeah, Chet's defensive rebounding rate in his 1 year at Gonzaga was almost 29%, which I believe Jarris Walker's, we looked at it last time we podcasted, and it was around 18%. So quite a bit better. Chet was a monster rebounder, even playing alongside another big and Drew Timme. Like he's just a really good rebounder. So I think that's going to fix a lot of things. But I'm not willing to sacrifice. I don't think you have to pin your hand behind your back with a smaller power forward just to keep Dort in the starting lineup.
All right, Brandon, we've held you back long enough. The floor is yours. In relation to Taylor Hendricks.
Okay, so I'll say I do want to touch back on a couple things real quick. I think that you guys brought up a couple of really good points and big questions going forward. It's funny because, we all talked about how small the Thunder are in comparison to the Wolves, but that was only, the center and power forward positions, the front court. They're so big. And like Spenser said, that's the idea. They want jumbo players everywhere. And they want to be, the bigger team and have an advantage. And they have an advantage at the guard positions right now. Playing J-Dub at power forward was just kind of they had to. I don't think that they want to. It's a really good question who's going to come off the bench. Like if you know for sure Shea's starting, Chet's starting, let's say that you draft Taylor Hendricks or Jarris Walker, which one of Dort, Giddey, and J-Dub and Walker / Hendricks is coming off the bench? One of them has to, and it doesn't seem like any of them should, especially since Hendricks is a natural power forward. And I'll go into that now. Like, to me, this draft, there's a lot of good players. There's a lot of players I would like to see on the Thunder that would make sense. But to me, I've been insanely high on Taylor Hendricks, and that's what they're talking about. I've been high on him, and he just keeps moving up. I actually have him at number 4 on my board right now, which I know seems crazy. He's 6'9". No official word on his wingspan yet, but everybody says it's a plus wingspan, and it seems quite a bit plus. He shot 40% for 3 most of the season, ended up at 39.4 on 4.6 attempts per game, 78.2% from 3 free throws. So he's a shooter, but then he's a shot blocker, really good shot blocker, 1.7 blocks per game, scored over 15 points per game, 7 rebounds per game. He's athletic. He's very switchable from the perimeter as far as being able to switch defenders and things like that. He's just, to me, kind of a seamless fit into what the Thunder want to do and their biggest need right now, which is a 4 that can shoot, rebound, and protect the rim. I mean, he's just the perfect, I think, fit. And Jarris Walker, in many ways, for the same reasons as well. They're a little bit different. Jarris Walker is more of a bruiser and thick, which would help a lot. He's more of a playmaker and ball handler than Taylor Hendricks is. So you can argue either one of them. I believe in Hendricks' jump shot much more. And I like his athleticism, how he just dunks everything. So I like Hendricks a little bit more. I'd be very happy with either one of them, and I think either one of them are a seamless fit. And if the Thunder were to somehow move up and get one of these guys, or somehow Hendricks fell to them at 12, I can't imagine that happening now. A month or 2 months ago, that would have seemed possible. But if the Thunder were to land one of these guys, I don't know how long you could keep one of them on the bench, but I don't know the answer to who goes to the bench between, theoretically, Hendricks, J-Dub, Giddey, or Dort. I mean, it's kind of wild to think of any of them going to the bench, right? But eventually, the Thunder are trying to maximize talent. And that's another question you could get into. Like, are we at the point where the Thunder are just looking to fit, or are we still just looking at best overall talent? There's an obvious need for a 4. There's a need for size and shooting. But let's say Cason Wallace, for instance, 6'3", 6'4", is Presti's highest rated player. When he comes up, do they pick him, or do they go for size and fit now? That's a good question as well. But we'll get answers obviously soon. I guess the moral of my story here is I would really like to see Taylor Hendricks or Jarris Walker on this Thunder team, and I would trade up to get either one of them.
Spencer, is it crazy to think that, like, I think skill from like a skill set, it makes the most sense for J-Dub to go to the bench?
Oh, no. I completely, well, maybe from skill set, but I think there's a better chance that Jalen Williams is an all-star next year more so than he goes to the bench.
Sure. But if there's someone who can maximize what they bring, like no matter who's on the floor with them, I think it's Jalen more than it is Dort or Giddey.
Couldn't you say the same about Giddey?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know.
Like, to me, Jalen is the second best player on this team until Chet takes his spot. So I agree. I'm outright, dismissing any J-Dub to the bench possibilities based on that. But, if you want to keep the James Harden comps alive, then I guess sending him to the bench would make sense.
I see what Ryan's saying for sure. Like, as far as like he could excel as like a bench playmaker and score and dominate in that role,
that obviously closes, like that one that obviously closes and plays a lot with starters.
But I'm with Spencer on this. He's too good. You got to start him. I think, and he's just a perfect complement player, and he relieves so much. I think, especially going forward off of SGA, the pressure on SGA, it's going to be even more so with Chet. To me, J-Dub is a starter for sure.
So it's Shea that comes off the bench.
No, I we talked about this a couple of pods ago, and I think I was conflicted on it, and I may have even said Giddey. And I disagree with my own take now. I think it's Dort. I think Giddey's too high level of a player. There are, how many defense first guards come off the bench in the NBA? A lot of them. A lot do. There's almost every team probably has one. Especially guys who can't shoot except from the corners. Like, the NBA benches are littered with those guys. I think it's reasonable for him to come off the bench. And I think it would actually be good for the long-term future of the team if, to start next year, they just throw Jalen to the fire and say, you're guarding the other team's best player for 20 straight nights, and just see how he does. Because I think he's going to be able to handle it, but there's going to be some growing pains.
Here's another thing that Mark Daigneault does that previous Thunder teams didn't really do all that much. Previous Thunder teams played all bench lineups. Mark Daigneault has been staggering. So, I think when we put down on paper, like, okay, these are the starters, this is the bench, we always think of the bench playing together as the bench. But Daigneault does a really good job staggering these guys. So I think that regardless of starters or bench, which of those guys comes off the bench is going to have a big role and end up playing with the starters as well as the bench, because there's probably not ever going to be a 5-man bench lineup like we usually think in our heads as the bench. That said,
that's fair.
Say what? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, like, I totally agree. You're spot on with what you're saying. I totally agree.
Yeah, and And then to think also, like, if you had Dort and Kenrich coming off the bench, like that defense off the bench is already looking really, really stout if those two guys were coming off the bench. So good luck to bench units, scoring.
They're going to have to play defense because that spacing is not great.
It's going to be great when you add Micic and Isaiah Joe to it.
Oh, Micic.
I knew you were going to do this.
Had to.
What prototype does he fit into? I don't think he's any of those. I don't think he's a power forward or a point of attack defender or a transition athlete.
Well, you don't have to draft him. He's already on the team. As soon as he signed with Lou and SGA's agency. He's gonna make that.
Did
move.
He really?
Oh yeah.
He signed with Wasserman, right? I mean, Wasserman's a huge agency.
It is, but I mean they are Dort and SGA's. But specifically, I think specifically like the specific agent. I can't remember his name. I looked it up at one point. I think it's Poku's. I think he shares the agent with Poku. I could be wrong about that, but I think the specific agent is Poku's. But he did specifically sign with them for the NBA. Whether that's with the Thunder or not, we'll see. But it's kind of the first sign that, hey, maybe he's actually going to come over this time. We'll see.
We've been duped before.
Sure, I will not be duped again. I think I've been duped twice. It will not happen a third time.
Last thing I want to say, though, real quick, starting in lineup, let's just go, fantasy season. Like, let's say the Thunder got Wembanyama, right? Obviously, he's starting.
Oh, God.
I'm just saying, in that circumstance, one of those guys has to go to the bench because Wembanyama is going to start. So, I mean, like, whether it's Hendricks or somebody else, there's the potential, down the line, one of those guys probably has to go to the bench, right? I will
have died and gone to heaven, so you guys can figure that out.
I think a lineup of like SGA, J-Dub, Giddey, Hendricks, and Chet could be a lot of fun. The size, the playmaking, the shooting, the defense, the offense is such a good mix of so many different elements.
I will say, Brandon, I've been slower on the Taylor Hendricks bandwagon, but I wrote out a quick lottery board today, and I had Taylor at 6, for
nice.
specific purposes, which is definitely the highest I've had him. So
nice.
You're slowly converting me.
Yes.
I do have him behind Jarris Walker. But I think honestly, either would be a great fit.
Yeah, I think those are the two best fits, obviously, besides Wemby. As far as like realistic gets for the Thunder, I think they're by far the two best fits. And really, they're kind of 4A, 4B for me. I go back and forth on Jarris Walker and Taylor Hendricks. Taylor Hendricks is more of the sleeper, or at least he used to be. So I kind of have an affection for him. I really like what he could bring, but either one would be a perfect fit.
If you're this high on Hendricks at 4, who do you have at 3?
Brandon Miller. And honestly, it's really close for me between Scoot and Brandon Miller for 2 and 3.
But you don't.
And if
are we still like? Are we still like he's off the table?
Yeah, I think those 3 are so solidified as far as like consensus boards go. The Thunder would have to, get lottery luck, I think, to get those 3 guys. Jarris, there's probably a world where he goes 4, but there's also probably a world where he may go 8 or 9, and the Thunder could trade up to get him. Taylor Hendricks, I think his range is probably anywhere from 7 to 11, something like that. So he's definitely in the range where the Thunder could trade up and get him, or maybe get really, really lucky and he falls to him. But yeah, like Brandon Miller, I think the Thunder would either have to get lottery luck or put in a whole bunch of draft capital and assets to try to trade up to get him at like 3.
To be clear, though, when I say off the table, I mean like we've talked about after what happened with him. It was like even if he fell to 30, Oklahoma City would never take him. You still feel that way?
I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know all the details. I read all the reports that everybody else did. All I know, this is all I'll say. the OKC front office and Sam Presti, they will do all the due diligence into character and off the court stuff. If he gets drafted to the Thunder, then he passed all the pre-draft checks. I don't know the answer to that though.
Spencer, what do you think about Miller?
As a player, or are you talking about the off the court stuff?
I mean, just like, whenever it happened, it was just an instant like, okay, well, Presti will never.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that was like you specifically. That was just what everybody was saying. So I'm just curious, like, if we love like big shooters, like positional size, like he would check those boxes too.
Yeah, theoretically, like, he was somebody that we identified like back in November as somebody who, might maybe there where the Thunder are picking at like 6 or 7, like, oh, he would be a great pick. Obviously he took off. He was arguably the best college player in the country this year on the court, and is going to be either the second or the third pick in the draft. I agree with Brandon. Like, I don't, who knows if he has disqualified himself from the Thunder's board. I don't think we're ever going to know. It would be interesting to find out, because that would mean the Thunder got the third pick in the draft, which would be kind of fun. Yeah. But I will say, I think the discourse around that would be my least favorite part about the Thunder having the third pick in this draft.
For sure.
I don't think that would be very much fun at all.
Unsubscribe.
And then Brandon, it sounded like he was saying for the Thunder, he would prefer Brandon Miller over Scoot. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it seemed like he was headed towards that take. Is that correct, Brandon?
Oh, I think he probably fits better. We've talked so much about size.
Yeah.
All other things being equal, I still have Scoot above Brandon Miller. And if the Thunder thinks that Scoot's like a special talent, like would go number 1 most years type talent, you got to take him. But all things being equal, Brandon Miller's 6'9" and has that size and can shoot from outside. So fit wise, Brandon Miller seems better. But I think that Scoot's talent may be like too good to pass up regardless of fit, and then you just figure it out later.
Yeah, that's how I would feel. I would say, Scoot's probably better than Josh Giddey, probably better than Jalen Williams. Just take him, see if he can be better than Shea. Probably not, because he's, Shea's amazing. But yeah, I'm not convinced that, and we don't have to spend a ton of time talking about this because it's in all likelihood not going to matter to the Thunder. But I don't think Brandon Miller's like a primary scoring option. I still have him third on my board, but I would have it as a distant third behind Scoot, even for the Thunder.
Yeah.
So we're looking for, I think we all agree that like that 4 spot is something to address, but like once they get them, it creates an interesting like rotational, not necessarily problem, but like we now get to like see like where certain guys are prioritized.
It's Champagne Problems, right?
What a great song. Yeah, that's an interesting one. What do you think about, like, let's say it's Anthony Black?
Ooh, let's get into this.
Yeah, this is a good question.
I'm excited about this. Go ahead. Where do you want to lead it?
I'll be honest. I think it's a conversation we should probably save. Like these are the things that I think there's a lot of unknowns. Obviously we don't know where the Thunder draft yet, but like I do think we should probably table it. That feels draft episode-y, but I'm like that type of, like when you get past those 2 power forwards that you mentioned in Walker and Hendricks, I'm curious what they do. We've all thought about, like, we've all mentioned trade up possibilities the last 2 years, and they did trade up last year to get 11. but it wasn't like the trade. It wasn't the draft day trade I think we were expecting.
They kind of traded up, right? I mean, they kind of traded in.
Right. They traded. Yeah, they traded in. It was more of a have their cake and eat it too situation. Like we definitely talked more about moving 12 to get to a certain number
to get to Shaden Sharp.
Right. Right. So maybe this year is a year that 12 becomes 8 or 12 becomes 9 or 7. You never know like what else they're willing to give. But it does feel like the last like real opportunity to make the most of like the mid to late lottery. Cause I just don't think they're going to be around. I don't think they're going to be
their own
it,
pick, right?
Yeah. I don't think their own pick is going to be sitting around like 12 for much longer.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I think they're going to be picking in this range. I mean, heck, they have 4 first-round picks next year, and 3 of them could be at 12 or some or in that range. Hopefully not. Hopefully they're spaced out a little bit, and maybe they'll trade up. They do have the ammo to do that. And if they do, to bring it back, I think Anthony Black. If I was a betting man, I would bet on him being a target.
I would agree.
So he's kind of, and I know we don't want to get into this too much, but he's kind of Scotty Barnesy to me in that. I think when you get to the NBA floor and just like the geometry of it, it's going to help him. It's going to help his scoring game a lot. And he's somebody that I've been out on for most of the year, but I think, the playmaking for one thing is something that just like gets him under the radar immediately for the Thunder. And then you think about how just cramped that floor was at Arkansas. Like Jordan Walsh played a ton for them. He can't shoot at all. They had a little. Nick Smith was supposed to be this great floor spacer. That didn't really work out. Trayvon Brazile was having a great year, and then I think tore his ACL after 9 or 10 games. And he was a big time floor spacer for them. Like he just had a really condensed floor. Now I want to see what his combine measurements are. But I think that in a similar way that Scotty Barnes benefited from having spacing, I think Anthony Black could benefit and would be an interesting fit.
Is he listed 6'6"?
6'7".
Okay.
6'7".
So there's about 4 or 5 guys in this draft that are all listed at 6'7" that play 4 different positions.
Yeah. There's a lot of similarities really between Anthony Black and the Thompson twins. Like they're both these jumbo size. They're all 3 of these jumbo size guards. Very good playmakers, very good passers, very, very good defenders. The Thompson twins are better athletes. I think Anthony Black, he's younger and has more. I don't know. I trust his shooting more. But I think there's a lot of similarities between those. I like Anthony Black's size a lot. I'm with we're getting into the weeds, I guess, with Anthony Black, and you said to table it. But I agree. I agree.
We can't resist, Ryan.
Target.
We can't.
That's all I'll say.
We can't resist. It's that big wing. I think it's going to be hard, like you're saying. Like I think it's going to be hard for them to pass up on another one with how well the J-Dub choice worked out. I think it would be hard for them not to at least take another swing at someone like that, because in theory you could have 2 of Shea, Giddey, J-Dub, and Anthony Black on the floor at all times. And there's certainly something to be said for that.
And well, I agree. The one big difference between J-Dub and Black would be the shooting. Like,
sure.
Yeah. J-Dub's shooting was so good in college, and you could see that happening, and that's just not the case with Anthony Black. But yeah, I mean, like, even KD mentioned it when he plays here. The Thunder just have 6'7", 6'8" ball handlers, playmakers all over the place, and Anthony Black would add to that. He's definitely the new Thunder prototype. And he plays at Arkansas, which, I mean, that's also a new Thunder prototype as well. So he kind of checks, and he's got big hair, another Thunder prototype. So he's kind of all over.
And he watches the Thunder.
He does. He said his favorite player to watch was Josh Giddey, and his next favorite was SGA. He watches a lot of Thunder. So he checks all the boxes, high character guy, smart dude. I think he would be a lot of fun on this team. I would still worry about, like, I think that he could do a lot of things that you want from your forward defensively and offensively, be such a good playmaker and scoring at the rim and things like that. I'd still worry about the shooting, though.
To be clear, if they do draft Anthony Black, I do think that signals the end of the Dort era, if not, not necessarily immediately, but at some point, like, I don't think you can have Dort, Black, and Giddey all together. I mean, it's not ideal, right? And Black is a good enough defender theoretically that, like, you don't necessarily need Dort, right? And if Dort can get to 40% from the corners, then hopefully Anthony Black can as well. And then hopefully Anthony Black is also, a better at finishing at the rim. We'll be very curious to see his combine numbers. But yeah, do you want to hit on the Thompson twins? Ryan, we haven't talked about Grady Dick at all.
Yeah, I do want to save a couple of these guys. But more like big picture, I think we're saying a lot of the same things in where the Thunder need to go, like the direction, the players to target, the positions to target. I would love to see this team, like you're saying, thrive on the boards next year, even if it means adding someone to the front court as well as Chet.
Yeah,
I don't know that's like we're talking about Saric, Jay Will, like these guys that are pretty ground bound. I don't like, it's going to be tough. Like, I think they love those guys, and I think Jay Will is going to be a part of the rotation next year. But I would love to see, like, some general athleticism be added to this team, and some like a leaper or two would be incredibly helpful when it
Taylor
comes to
Taylor Hendricks.
We know where Brandon's at. But Hendricks looks the part to me. Like, and Spencer, you've talked about, like, that UCF wasn't terrible, and he was clearly the best player.
Yeah, which I think is a really good indicator. Like, they were, they didn't make the tournament, but they, let me look up where they were in KenPom at the end of the year. Like, I think they were over 500. Yeah, they went 19-15. They were 56th in KenPom. So, probably 15 spots away, theoretically, from getting an at-large bid to the tournament. I'm sure they probably had an NIT bid. It looks like they played in the NIT. They beat Florida in the NIT this year. So, and yeah, he was clearly the best player.
That's probably a higher finish than Santa Clara last year.
Yeah, I think so. But I will double check for you. Santa Clara finished 76th in KenPom last year.
I mean, that means nothing.
And that was with Jalen. I mean, yeah, that doesn't mean a ton. But, Jalen was their best player, but he was also a junior, whereas Taylor Hendricks is a freshman. So pretty impressive. I will say, as far as leapers go, like, Grady Dick is not a huge leaper, but they threw some lobs to him this year. Like, I think he would upgrade in that department.
Do you want to talk about, you've had a certain wing player that plays in the Eastern Conference come up in our thread a few times. Do you want to mention your guy?
Or is he a restricted free agent?
He is.
Did he teach the Thunder some lessons in April or in March? I forget which month it was.
He did.
PJ Washington, right? Put up a 40 burger on the Thunder. He's a restricted free agent. It's a long shot, right? Like, the Thunder are not typically a free agent destination, but that's, if the Mavericks don't want to dump any contracts, or anyone else, nobody else wants to dump any contracts into the Thunder's cap space, then I would toss an offer sheet at PJ Washington. Good defender, can shoot a little bit, would certainly upgrade rebounding at the 4. Just a good player.
Yeah, I like PJ Washington quite a bit. He's still only 24. He's got a really long, if I remember right, he's got like a 7-foot wingspan, even though he's 6'7", which obviously, fits. He actually, 7'2.5" wingspan at 6'7". That's right up the Thunder's alley. That's J-Dub.
J-Dub. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. He kind of checks all the boxes, and because he is a restricted free agent, I know that he wanted a new contract, I think, at the beginning of last season, and they didn't extend him. So they're going to let him go to restricted free agency. And, I don't know if Thunder are going to do that. They might just say, hey, let's wait, see what happens. Let's see how Chet fits in and go from there. But if there was a guy that you wanted to be like, okay, we weren't able to get the 4 that we wanted in the draft. If there was a guy that you could go out and get without giving up any sort of assets, and you wanted to use your cap space, PJ Washington is kind of the perfect guy. And we know he can shoot really well in OKC. So
I think I'm magnitudes more interested in signing him to an offer sheet than I am, like, for example, trading for John Collins.
Right.
Like, I'm just way more interested in PJ Washington as a restricted free agent. What about happen? Like, no, almost certainly not, but it would be fun.
What about do you like PJ Washington more than Cam Johnson?
Yeah, Cam Johnson's not really a 4, right? I would also
a 4.
consider
like a 3-4.
What's a 4 anymore these days? What's even a 4?
Can you be 6'10"? Can you look like Usman Jang? No, that's a good point. Yeah, you could throw in Cam Johnson. Sure. He's a great shooter. Again, like I think it's more likely that, for example, like Houston has like $70 million or whatever it is in cap space this summer. Like they're probably going to after they pay Austin Reeves $90 million over 4 years, they're going to have some money left over.
You think it's going to be Harden for real? Like, do you think that's going to be?
No, I don't. I think they're going to end up paying guys, like PJ Washington or Austin Reeves, guys like that, who are like good players, but they're not going to. I don't know. Houston's a mess. They need Wemby, right?
They're going to be what they're going to be 2. Second best.
Yeah, they're second.
Yeah.
The odds are flat, right? It's just
right.
They don't win it,
but they finished in that top 3
for second. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Houston won their coin flip and OKC lost their coin flip. Of course.
I'm kind of relieved we lost.
Are you?
Well, I don't think what if we had won and then the 12th pick had jumped up and gotten Wemby? I don't think I could have handled an Evan Mobley situation all over again.
What if 11 jumps up though?
Well, but then we lost the coin flip. So, then you at least,
gotcha.
There's not, the insult to injury of winning the coin flip and not getting to draft Evan Mobley.
You're right. That's true. That's
no, it doesn't. It makes no sense, but it makes sense.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, beating the Cavs in that coin flip, and then the Cavs getting Evan Mobley.
Yeah,
it all worked out though, because the Thunder got Josh Giddey, and if they had Mobley, they probably don't end up getting Chet because they're probably too good that year. So you get Giddey and Chet as opposed to Mobley and who knows who else, right? That's how I'll spin it.
Any Trey Murphy regrets?
Of course, all of them.
Same. That guy.
We drafted the wrong Trey M. How did that happen?
Right. Ugh. Gosh, and I love you guys know I was about it with Trey, man. Very excited.
we were all interested, and especially coming into the year. And like, I think he's going to be on the team next year, and he'll have another shot.
Agreed.
But in hindsight, like, not drafting the 6'9" freak athlete who can shoot seems a bit odd compared to drafting the 6'4" shooting guard who can't play defense.
That's
what's so wild about the draft, though. I mean, like, look at how many teams, didn't draft a Trey Murphy. Like, he falls so far. Like, he was a multi-year college guy. Like, he was a little bit older, probably had a perceived lack of upside. Right.
Memphis taking Zaire Williams over him, like he would kill in Memphis, and then like the Spurs taking Primo over him.
Right.
A lot of teams just said like we're good, and like I didn't have him like pegged for the dunk contest in his first 2 years either.
No,
like really, really athletic, and that's kind of a we all whiffed on this guy.
Well, look
he's
at
awesome.
I mean, really 10 through 14, Zaire Williams, James Bouknight, Josh Primo, Chris Duarte. You can argue Moses Moody or not, but then Corey Kispert, who has turned out to be really good this year. Davion Mitchell was at number 9. Like Murphy goes over every single one of those guys in a redraft.
Yep. Semi-related, or well, go ahead, Ryan.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's really not all that semi-related, except for that it has to do with the Pelicans. What is y'all's level of interest in potentially putting an offer in for Zion if he were to become available this offseason?
I mean, he is a 4.
He is a 4. It's a high risk, right? But I think if you could get it done with picks and like Jang being the main parts of the package, which is unlikely, right? Like they'd probably ask for Jalen or Giddey for sure. And I don't think I would be willing to do that.
Not at all.
No, I wouldn't.
But I would give up Jang and picks pretty quickly.
I think anything that we would give up wouldn't come close to getting it done. But
probably not.
But
I'd have a meeting about it though.
And I think that anything they asked, we would not be willing to give because he's too high of a risk. Like I agree. It's such obviously when he's on the floor, he's an incredible player, but it's such a risk with the injury history and I don't know. I think it would be too big a risk for what they would want, and they would want a guy that they know could be a star like a J-Dub or a Giddey, and as much on paper that seems like, oh yeah, of course you'll trade for Zion, one of those guys. I still wouldn't do it because of the risk.
Could throw in like Dort, Jang, 8 first-round picks.
That is the beauty of having so many first-round picks.
I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, you can kind of overwhelm with first-round pick. Like usually, obviously, teams want a young potential star, but when you have so many picks, you can get some things done. I mean, we've seen that in the last couple of years. You don't always get an SGA. That's what made the Thunder Paul George deal so crazy. Obviously the picks, but getting SGA is what made that deal so special. But a lot of these teams aren't getting yet SGAs. Obviously, like the Jazz ended up with Walker Kessler, but they had no idea. That was a pick. That wasn't Walker Kessler at the time. So no, I don't think it can happen for Zion. They'll want a, potential star, but other disgruntled or, stars or guys that can be traded may be able to be had with just a bunch of picks and potential young guys, but not necessarily guys like J-Dub or Giddey that are already established.
Look at us not being willing to trade Josh Giddey for Zion. How far
I know there's gonna be some people screaming. I get it. I mean, of course, like logic says you do that. Like, I get it, but he's such a big risk. Like, not only with the injury history, but like, is he gonna stay in OKC? When the next, like, is he gonna play? Is he want to be here? Like, all those things.
I think that's who stole Josh's hips. Zion has them both.
Oh my God. No, Josh's hips are there. They're there.
They're just so high.
Yeah.
They're north of the border.
I don't know. I guess we maybe are a little bit crazy for not being, like Brandon said, Zion would have to be all in on being in Oklahoma City. He'd have to be committed to being in shape.
Yeah.
And how could you possibly know that when you pull the trigger on a trade?
Right.
But if those things were true, Zion has 4 years left on his deal, I'm pretty sure. So if you could like wave a magic wand and verify that, I probably would trade Giddey for him.
Oh
You
gosh,
know, if you're getting a guy that's going to have 15 shots at the rim every game, no matter what, like, and if he's going to be bought in on defense, you know, it's a lot of ifs. So I'm not going to do it without those assurances. But
every shot of him during that play-in game, he's just
I do think they need to like seriously consider trading him. You know, I think they'll get better offers than what the Thunder would offer because somebody will be desperate. But like that, if anyone has ever needed a change of scenery, it's Zion.
I'll say this: what's great about the Thunder is the mix of first round picks and young players, and on top of that, really the biggest thing, you know, we always talk about like the KD trade, for instance, like to give up what you'd have to give up to get KD, you've got your roster and you're no longer a contender because you got KD, but you had to give up so much for him. The Thunder have so many assets and so many young players. You could potentially, I'm not saying they should, I'm not advocating for this or anything like that. But when you got already a core of SGA, Chet, J-Dub, and Giddey, and then, you know, Dort and Jang and things like that, but then also all these first round picks, you could potentially go get a star and not have to gut, you know, let's say you keep SGA and then, you know, 2 of 3, whether it's Chet, Giddey, J-Dub, to go get somebody else. I'm not advocating for it. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying that they do have that, and most teams do not have that. The options and flexibility are there for the Thunder, whereas they're not for most teams.
They also have. No, I'm not going to say that. All right, boys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I promised to get you out of here before the Warriors and Kings tipped off, and it is 9 minutes and 54 seconds left in the second quarter. So that is on.
You did pretty good.
That's on me, but thank you as always. We'll be back. I want to get some reaction to Presti's interview, which I think is, Brandon, you may know more than me, but is that next Monday?
It'll be coming soon, within this week.
Okay. We may even go like Twitter Spaces with that one, so be looking for that. But yeah, we will be back soon to discuss. As you can see, we have a lot of takes in the chamber when it comes to the draft, and we are excited about the coming week. So enjoy the rest of these great round 1 playoff games, and we'll talk to you soon, guys. Thank you so much. A great way to support Daily Thunder is by visiting one of our partners, Shopgood. Shopgood has you covered on all Thunder-related clothing items, including original and hand-printed shirts, hats, and stickers for both adults and kids. Be sure to check out our Thunderbird tee, a popular team redesign concept that pays homage to Oklahoma's Native American culture. To view Daily Thunder's entire catalog at Shopgood, visit shopgoodokc.com/daily-thunder. Thank you for listening to this episode and for supporting Daily Thunder.